Right, now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going, close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Welcome back to the Pick and Go podcast, your number one Super Rugby podcast, where we discuss all things Super Rugby. And unfortunately today, I'm by myself in the studio. Piri Wipu had a couple of things to do. He's a very, very busy man, so he was double booked. And so unfortunately he can't be here. And also, as you'll discover towards the end of the show, he's been far too successful with his tipping. And he's making myself and my other guest, Ben Surly, he's making us look very, very shabby.
Yeah, you said double booked, mate. I have it on good authority. He's just out fishing, living the dream with all his winnings. He doesn't need to work anymore, and well done to him. He's following his heart, and it's rewarding him so far because, geez, did his Hurricane salute. It could be a pity in the parade come July, because they're looking sharp, mate.
It's a fascinating table that we look at the moment with the Canes, the only unbeaten team left in the comp, sitting at the top of the table, and the Crusaders still yet to record a victory and only staying off the very bottom of the table on points differential by way of the Force. So I don't think at the beginning of the season, even though all those changes that the Crusaders went through, I don't think anyone had them 0-3 after 3 rounds of Super Rugby.
No, I think 1996 was the last time they started 0-3, and they've never lost 4 on the trot. If you look at their next 3 games as well, they got the Canes at home, then they're taking on the Blues up at Eden Park, and then they host the Chiefs at home. Is there a world they could be 0-6? I tell you what, that wouldn't be that crazy to think, would it?
It's not outside of the realms of possibility. I was talking to a Crusaders supporter here at work. Yeah, there are a few of them here at work, to be fair.
Right.
And he was trying to convince me that the Crusaders run in their last 6 or 7 games are very, very winnable. And they could sneak into the playoffs. And as we know, when they get to the playoffs, they usually switch on. So he was still, I'm not sure if he was trying to convince me or if he was trying to convince himself that the Crusaders were still a good chance. But boy, oh boy, they're almost playing playoff footy if they don't win this Friday down there in Christchurch. But we'll get to the preview soon. I've got a question for you, Surly. And of course, we discussed the Crusaders last weekend and are they in crisis? And well, that's just been compounded by their result over in Fiji, a few days ago. This week, let's look at the top of the table. Are the Hurricanes the real deal?
I think they are. And I think the result on the weekend showed that, because up against the Blues without Geordie Barrett, I was pretty quick to write them off. I just thought the Blues would have too many attacking threats, but we saw a handful of other players really stand up. I thought Cam Roigard was exceptional again, and that young back 3, Ruben Love, Kini Naholo, Josh Morby, that's 3 names that I'm sure Razor Robinson now has on his tip sheet that could be All Blacks of the future. Ruben Love in particular, he's lightning quick. He's a great distributor. He takes a lot of workload off that 10. He's like having a second playmaker out the back. And then I thought Kini Naholo was exceptional. I always say Mark Talia's the slipperiest man in rugby union. Kini must be giving him a good run for his money, because he was breaking tackles left, right, and centre. So they've still got plenty of players to come back. They're the only undefeated side in the competition. You'd have to say they are the real deal so far.
I look at Kini Naholo, and you're right. He's very, very hard to tackle. I think he's a wee bit more direct than our Mr. Slippery, but he's certainly just as effective. And it's good to see him injury-free. And if he can stay that way, you're right. He's certainly putting his hand. He looks very, very good. Morby just scores tries for fun. And that's what you want from a winger. Finish the job. When the opportunities present themselves, you want a winger who will just do the simple things really, really well and pick up the points, and that's exactly what he did. And you're right, they've basically got another 10 at the back there with Ruben Love, who looked very, very good. The forward pack, I thought, was very, very impressive as well. Up against a huge Blues pack, they at set pieces, I thought they were superb.
Yeah, they've been punching above their weight, haven't they? Because we always talk that they've lost Artie and Dane Coles, but it seems like that next cab off the rank, and they've been building this depth for a little while. Guys like Braden Uosi and co, they've been coming through the ranks and playing some great code at NPC level, so it's cool to see them take their opportunities with both hands. I thought Peter Lakai was really strong again, so it's all positive news coming out of the capital. I'm sure Pity will be waking up every day with a massive smile on his face at the moment.
No Geordie, of course, no Artie for the whole season. You could have forgiven the Hurricanes to sort of just fall back into the pack and maybe sneak into the playoffs, and you maybe give them a pass mark for that with all that sort of I guess experience and talent out, but they'll get Geordie back in the not too distant future. So things are looking up for them. They're looking very, very good. They're only unbeaten team. Big challenge this weekend, but we'll get to that a wee bit later. The Landers picked up another win. The Tars had their opportunity right on full time. In cricket, they say catches win matches. Well, in rugby, I kick the points and you usually win the matches. And unfortunately for the Tars, right at the end there, they just couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, kicks get your ticks on your bet slips, and unfortunately for myself, I went with the Waratahs, and I'm paying the price for that. But yeah, I think we've made it pretty clear over the last couple of weeks on this podcast that we like watching the Highlanders play. They're a young, youthful side. They throw the ball around. They play an exciting brand of footy. And it was cool to see them get a big win on the road against the Waratahs side that would have been extremely confident coming in off the back of that big win against the Crusaders. So a massive tick in the Highlanders box. I think if you said after 3 weeks they'd be 2 from 3 and sitting in 6th, most guys in the deep south would certainly have taken that. Even better, they're well clear of the Crusaders, so they're the dominant side from the South Island, which you haven't been able to say for a fair few years now.
Yeah, a very young side. The Welsh first 5'8" has sort of added another sort of dimension to their play. He looks very, very good. It's almost as if he's been down south for a number of seasons. He slotted in very, very nicely.
Yeah, we saw them do this last year with Freddie Burns as well, but I think Petrel has just fit in so much more. He's got a bit of flair about him, which really suits this team, and quite often when guys come across from the north, 10s in particular, they're just very kick to space and that type of cutter. But Petrel, he's not afraid to roll the dice, so I've enjoyed watching him. He's not a player that I've watched a whole lot of outside of playing for Wales, so he's been a very astute pickup for them, and he's filled the void perfectly. And alongside Gilbert there, that 10 combination, Fakatava at 9 as well, that's right up there with some of the best 9, 10, 12 combos in the comp. So hopefully that can continue. They can all stay healthy, because those 3 are key to the Highlanders trying to kick on and make playoffs.
In the 13-man game, they talk about the spine, and that sort of is part of the spine when it comes to rugby, that 9, 10, even the 12, that sort of links the forwards with the backs. And the Highlanders certainly seem to have one of the best combinations in Super Rugby going around at the moment. Conversely, the Crusaders seem to be struggling in that area, and we'll have a look at their game against the Drua. I think we were all in agreement last weekend when we said the Drua are a much better team at home for obvious reasons. The crowd support, the playing conditions, and once they get a wee bit of momentum up, they're very, very hard to stop. And the Crusaders, although got off to a pretty good start, they just weren't able to hold on. It was very un-Crusader-like.
Yeah, exactly that. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's not often you see the Crusaders get up to a 10-0 lead and then blow it from there. I do wonder, tries either side of half time, the mindset that they're in at the moment, the confidence is potentially down. And once you start scoring a couple tries on sides that are struggling, then the head might go on them early. So I think that played an element into it as well. Well done to the drawer. They certainly didn't dip their heads, and that local crowd really got behind them and brought them back into the game. But I thought the Crusaders' attack at times, outside of Jeremiah Murray, who was really good on debut, and Sevu Reece, who is just looking like he hasn't missed any time, which is great to see for All Blacks fans. But outside of those two, they're really lacking a bit of strike in a backline that outside of the 10 jersey should be pretty potent. So there is some worrying signs there in terms of their attacking structure, because to only score 10 points against the Fijian draw side who historically get involved in high scoring clashes, they're going to play some more structured defenses, and they're going to need to score more points than that.
Let's move on to the Canes Blues, and I'd like to apologise to the Canes for tipping against them last week. I just thought that they were just missing a wee bit too much class. But boy, oh boy, some of those younger players have started to step up. We've seen it, as you've already mentioned. We've seen some of these players show off their skills at NPC level. We're now seeing that them start to make that step up, and they're showing those same sort of skills at Super Rugby level. So Canes 29, Blues 21. First of all, I guess, should we look at the selection of the Blues team? And I'm talking about the bench as well, where they went for a Springbok type sort of bench with only a couple of backs on there. And unfortunately for them, the way the game panned out, those two backs were on fairly quickly, which meant they were, I guess, short in the end.
Yeah, it almost was the worst possible scenario in terms of how it all played out. You lose your fullback, you lose your winger, you got two backs on the bench. One of them's a halfback who ended up kind of playing centre wing there and roaming a bit. And then you have guys like Caleb Clark, who I assume just banked that All Blacks rest week. I know he had a family wedding on the Friday, but Saturday it looked like he wasn't up to much. So perhaps that was a box tick there. And then that again alludes back to why are our All Blacks resting this early in the competition. And that was a great example of how it can affect the outcome of the game, because yeah, you'd have to think if the Blues had capable replacements in the back line, then it would have been a lot tighter of a game. I think the Blues scoring late flattered them on the scoreboard, and I thought the Hurricanes were well and truly the dominant side. But when you're playing the last 10 to 15 minutes with a reserve lock on the wing, you're kind of at a hiding to nothing against Naholo and Morby in particular, who will just pick you apart.
Final game of the round, and another upset, and the Reds are sort of becoming a wee bit of a bogey team for the Chiefs. I think they've won the last 2 out of the last 3 against the Chiefs. And have they shown other teams a blueprint to unlock this Chiefs defense? Because they're certainly not afraid to give the ball a wee bit of air, the Reds. They took the game to the Chiefs. They came out on top 25-19.
Yeah, I think they play the most like a Kiwi side, don't they? Like you said, they're not afraid to throw the ball around. They've got plenty of attacking threats. And Fraser McWright, they've got a world-class 7. Like, he's Michael Hooper 2.0. You could be excused for thinking it was a young Hooper with the headgear on. Looks like he's bulked up and added a bit of size, and he's a menace over the ball. He gets them so many turnovers. So they're actually a cool side to watch, the Reds. And I really enjoyed watching this game just because it was all-out action. Hate to sound like a broken record, but Leonard Brown on the bench, you'd have to think that was forced in terms of load restriction and things like that. So perhaps, again, something we need to look at in New Zealand rugby, because the All Blacks last played in November. They don't play again till July. Do guys need to be sitting out in early March? I'm not quite sure.
Right, let's move on to this week. It's round 4, and it's a huge game to start the round. Friday night, down south, Crusaders taking on the Hurricanes. a top of the table v bottom of the table. And the bookies can't separate these two. In the match result market, Crusaders $1.95, Canes $1.95, the draw's at $13. The total points for the game is set at 53.5. I look at this game and look, I think we can separate that. I had a look at the last few matchups between these two teams, and 3 of the last 4 matches between these two teams have been decided by 3 points or less.
Wow.
So I looked. So they've been fairly tight. The Crusaders have had the edge, but they've been fairly close games. So, Sully, how do you see this one panning out?
Well, off the back of that stat, I love a Hurricanes 1-12. You were mentioning, I think it was last week, that the bookies often factor in a home ground advantage. Well, it must be huge for the Crusaders, and fair enough, because historically they don't lose at home, but this year is different. The Hurricanes are hot to trot. They're going down to Christchurch, and this would be a great scalp for them and a chance to etch themselves in the history books by being that team to give the Crusaders their first ever 4th straight defeat. So, yeah, look, you're always brave backing against the Crusaders at home historically, but I think the Hurricanes are the perfect team to go down there and get the job done. So I love that $1.95 head-to-head, and the 1-12 is even more juicy because I do think the Crusaders will show up in front of what I can imagine will be a packed house, because I think the locals will get out and try and support their team. But yeah, the Swirls at the moment, they're the form side in the comp, so it's a deadly opponent.
We're recording this on Wednesday morning before the teams have been named, so we're sort of going in slightly blind here, but I have heard a rumor that Scotty Barrett will not be playing.
Wow.
He has some sort of injury. I can't confirm that at the moment, but I have heard that Scotty Barrett won't be there. So he's a huge, if that is the case, that's a huge out for the Crusaders. And this is a game when they really needed that sort of leadership that he provides. And also he's got a bit of mongrel about him too. And so it's sort of the problems, the issues seem to be compounding on the Crusaders at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And that Hurricanes pack, like we mentioned, they are quite young. So if you can get in there and a guy like Barrett, if he can bully a few bodies, then the confidence would certainly drop a little bit. But yeah, if that is the case, then I expect the Canes to come in a fair bit in the markets, because Scott Barrett, he's the captain. He's a market mover. So without him, their chances of winning drop drastically.
Right, the next game we'll have a Bo Peepat is on Saturday afternoon. The Highlanders hosting the Brumbies. Are you surprised? The Highlanders are slight outsiders at home against the Brumbies, who weren't overly impressive last weekend. $2.05 Highlanders in the match result, $1.80 the Brumbies. The draw's at $16. The Brumbies are 1.5 point favourites, and the game total is set at 57.5. $2.05. Does that tempt you, Surly?
Does it tempt me, mate? That's going straight on my bet slip, as is a Highlanders 1-12. You mentioned the Brumbies last week. They weren't amazing, and I was actually cheering for the Force purely so that the Crusaders would then be on the bottom of the ladder, because they've broken my hearts way too many times. So I wanted to screenshot that and send it around some group chats to the Crusaders fans in my life. But the Brumbies were almost lucky to get away with that one. The first 40 in particular, they were pretty woeful. So I'd say the Highlanders will be taking this as quite disrespectful, and I wouldn't be surprised if their coaching staff just slip that in the team chat that they are the underdogs in this one, despite playing the better code at the moment. So at home, in front of a packed zoo, and they've been getting good crowds down there in Dunedin as well, which is awesome to see. I like them to get the job done here in a close game, but I think they could be too good.
I was surprised when the odds came out for that game. Unfortunately, I've been tipping so poorly that may not be a good thing for Highlanders fans, but it just it looks very juicy. The Highlanders, an underdog at home against an Australian team that really have, I think, flattered to deceive at the moment. They've got away with a few results. We'll move on to the Chiefs and the Drua, and unfortunately for the Drua, the Reds have done them no favours. The Chiefs will be looking to bounce back big time this weekend. Chiefs $1.13, The Drua, $5.75. The draw's at $26. Chiefs are 19.5-point favourites there. That's almost 3 converted tries. And the total for the game is set at 59.5. First of all, Surly, can the Drua keep it within that 19.5-point handicap?
Yeah, so there's two things that come into my mind straight away here. The first is that obviously the draw on the road in New Zealand aren't as strong as they are at home. But the other thing that comes into my mind is I think Clayton McMillan and co would have perhaps penciled this game thinking they might be 3 from 3, and this could be a game where they rest the likes of your Damian McKenzie's, your Sean Stevensons, those guys that need to get some All Black rest under their belt. So yeah, this could be an interesting one. I'm keen to see this lineup. Like you said, we're recording it Wednesday morning, but if the Chiefs do decide to rotate a lot of their big names, then the draw on that 19.5 might not be a bad shout. Like you said, though, you'd be crazy to bet against the Chiefs off the back of a loss at home. They'll certainly have a bit of a sting in their tail, and they'll be looking to come out and make a statement.
Yeah, I can't see the Chiefs losing this, but as you say, the selections, team selections will go a long way to determining whether that 19.5-point handicap is right on the money, or whether it needs to be adjusted slightly if indeed we see the likes of DMAC maybe having a rest or starting off the bench. So I think the Chiefs, after that loss, will be very, very hard to beat, regardless of the team they beat. And as you correctly said, the Drua are a different team away from Low Toka. So it'll be it's more the team selections that are the interesting part of this game for mine at the moment.
Yeah.
Last game we're going to have a look at this round, the Waratahs Blues. They finish off round 4 on Saturday night. The Tars, $4. The Blues, $1.27. The draw's at $21. The Tars are 10.5-point underdogs at home, and the game total is set at 59.5. Surely the Blues bounce back this weekend, Surly.
Yeah, I think so, but I would probably tip it in that 1-12 margin, to be fair. Like you said before, though, we've both been battling in our tips, so punters beware. But the Waratahs at home, I think they've proven that they're a pretty decent side. So they've had a tough run. Crusaders into Landers, now into the Blues. So perhaps some fatigue there. You'd assume the Blues will be back to full strength now after a loss. They won't want to take any chances with this one, so you'd expect to see a strong side. And saying that, though, Zahn, AJ Lamb, then we had Mark Talia go off injured as well. How are those three going to pull up? That's 3 big attacking threats for them. You assume Caleb Clark comes back in, so that will help. But there's a few moving pieces there as well. So if the Blues are able to roll out, say, 12 to 13 of their usual starting 15, Hoskins comes back into the starting lineup, then you'd assume they'd be too strong. But over in Australia, I think that does give the Waratahs a slight boost in terms of that point start. I'll be going the Blues, but I'm not expecting a 13 plus at this stage.
It'll be very interesting to see the shape of the bench for the Blues, whether he goes for another Springbok-type bench, whether he's forced to because of all the injuries. He may only have 2 back reserves to put on the bench, but it'll be very interesting to see whether he adds another back onto that bench in place of a forward. But yes, I think the Blues, even though the Tars beat the Crusaders a couple of weeks ago, so they're no pushovers.
No.
And the Blues are going to have to play very, very well to get on top of them, but I think they'll have just a wee bit too much class, plus the fact that they'll be a wee bit more desperate after that loss to the Hurricanes last weekend down here at the Cape Town.
I wonder if he flips it, goes 6 backs, 2 forwards, and just really shows he's learned his lesson. You know, that would be great to see.
Well, and then see the reserve halfback playing lock in the second half for the Blues.
Yeah, I'd prefer to see that rather than a forward out in the back line. I reckon we get some backs in the forward pack and make it really interesting.
Right. Let's take a look at the betting from last week. And I'll start. I was rubbish. I got nothing. I was absolute rubbish. I went I thought a very, very simple multi. I'll take the Blues to win and the Chiefs to win, and they both lost. So I'm going. I've done a wee bit more study this week, and I'm hoping that's going to pay off. Surly, how did you go?
Yeah, I had two multis. One was the drawer into Moana. Unfortunately, Moana just couldn't get it up, but shout out to the drawer. And then in the second multi, man, that was crosses galore. I had the drawer, luckily, but apart from that, I think I had the Chiefs and the Blues both to get the wins, and they didn't. So, yeah, tough bickies for me. Pity did extremely well, though, which I'm sure you'll tell us about. And it's unfortunate he's not here to gloat about it because, yeah, he often has a big grin on his face whenever he tips a few winners.
Oh, boy. So Pity had 2 bets last week. He took a 3-leg multi. He took the Landers to win, took the Canes to win, and he took the Drua to win.
Wow.
The Landers, he had 25 on that. The Landers were around $2.25. The Canes were around $2.50. The Drew around $2.70, depending on when you placed your bet.
Yeah.
So he would have got around $380 back for that $25 multi. And then he had $75 on the Canes just to win at $2.50. So altogether, he would have got around $560 back for his $100 spent last week. Superb. And that's why we're not going to have him here, because he's just too bloody successful.
Yeah.
He's making us look bad. But no, he will be back next week. I guarantee he'll be back next week. So those who like to follow Pity, and I'm going to start following now.
Ditto.
He hasn't said anything, sent anything through for this week. But Surly, do you want to give us where you're going to spend your $100 this week?
I like that from Pity, though. He's given himself a spell. He's chucked himself back in the stables, a well-earned rest, and a chance to dig deep into the well and find some more winners for next week. So, yeah, I'll be following Pity in, coming in off a week off, fresh, and he'll be dangerous. But I've just gone the one multi, much similar to your thinking last week. I just want to win here, but it's still paying decent at $5.30. I've gone the Canes to beat the Crusaders. I've gone the Landers to get the win over the Brumbies. Then I've jumped in, got the Chiefs and the Blues. Those are all head-to-heads. A decent return there. I'm hoping that the Kiwi sides all salute this week, and it's back to regular programming in our Super Rugby. No more upsets. We've got those out of the way now. It's time to get some green ticks on the bet slips. So we'll give them a taste of Kiwi, surely, Paulie.
I'm hoping so, because I have a very similar outlay as you. I'm putting $50 on either team to win by 7 or under. That's the try bet in the Crusaders Hurricanes match.
Nice.
So either team to win by 7 or under, the try bet, and that's paying $2.25. And then I'm taking a $50 3-leg multi. Chiefs to win, Blues to win, Highlanders to win. I don't want to put the Mockers on the Canes, so I've left them out. In fact, I don't deserve to tip the Canes out because I tipped against them last week. So yeah. Chiefs to win, Blues to win, Highlanders to win. That comes out to $2.94. I've got $50 on that. So
nice.
Hopefully myself and Surly can get a wee bit of a collect this weekend with our tipping. Don't forget, we've got a tipping comp as well. With some bonus bets to give away at the end of the season. I had a poor week last week, Surly. I'm not sure how you went, but there's still to get in there and have a go. Where are you on that? I can tell you I'm 45th on the table at the moment.
Yeah, I was too embarrassed to check the table because I only tipped 2 winners last week. So wouldn't be surprised if I'm below you there, Paulie. I am struggling at the moment, but quite often, you know, early rounds, you get these results, you get these upsets. We're trying to work out the lay of the land. I think from let's say round 4, which is this week onwards, we're really going to hit our straps. So follow us in, punters. We're going to be shooting up the ladder over the next couple of weeks.
Fantastic. Don't forget our promotions as well. We've got a same game claim on the Crusaders Hurricanes match, the Highlanders Brumbies, the Chiefs Drua, and the Waratahs Blues. So if you like your same game multis, and I'm looking at a couple of games there, I think there'll be a few tries. There'll be a few tries in that Chiefs Drua match, I would say. And it would
Sure.
surprise me to see a few tries in that Waratahs Blues game either. So I don't mind multing up a few try scorers in those matches. So if you like your same game multis, there's certainly an opportunity for you to get stuck in there. And of course, we've got the oval ball mega multi-buster as well. Just head to the TAB website and go to the Punters Lounge to check out all the T's and C's there. But if you like your multis and you don't quite get the collect, there's an opportunity for you to pick up a bonus bet. So hopefully you don't need the bonus bet and you pick up the win like Pity did last weekend.
Yeah, it's always good to have a bit of insurance though, Paulie. It makes the loss hurt a little less when you check and you see that bonus bet sitting there and you get a chance to go again, roll it into this week.
That's about it for this week. A fairly short, sharp show, but we'll be back to normal next week when Pity Weepu's back and Surly will be back again. And hopefully myself and Surly will have big smiles on our faces after we've picked up a wee bit of cash with our bets on Super Rugby this weekend. Surly, anything to sign off the show with?
No, I'm just hoping Pity's form rubs up on us and we get that winning formula ourselves. Now he's been absent today. Surely the punting gods will spread the love around and we'll be two happy campers come next week, just smiling from ear to ear, accounts sitting pretty, and we're good to go.
Righty-ho. Thanks to Surly for being on the podcast once again. And thanks to you guys for listening to the Pick and Go podcast, your number one Super Rugby podcast for all things tipping and betting. And hopefully we'll be back after a successful weekend, round 4.